Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to you, sis. You're welcome to our mini course, the Muslim Mom Toolkit for Managing Challenging Behaviors Without Losing It. Are you that overwhelmed mom because your child doesn't listen or is always out of control? Like we all know, parenthood is a very can be a very joyful journey, filled with joy and amazing moments. But does it come with its daily challenges and ups and downs? Of course, yes. From us having to deal with tantrums, misbehavior, or just constantly worrying if we are equipping our children enough for the skills that they need to thrive. So, for us Muslim moms, we will strive to instill the values of responsibility, empowerment, and emotional balance in our children. I have created this course to ease this journey for you. In this course, we will explore practical strategies tailored to your unique needs as a Muslim family. You will gain the insight to navigate parenting orders effectively and for you to set your kids up for success. What do you stand to gain if you listen to me till the end of this class? Why should you stay with me and not leave? You will get practical tools that will help you manage challenging behaviors without losing it. You will get means to maintain nurturing environment for your kids without always using strict discipline or always having to rely on iron hand. You would have enough positive and effective discipline tools that are aligned with Islamic principles that will promote better communication in your family without you constantly yelling or punishing. And lastly, you will get the skills to instill the sense of responsibility in your children from a very early stage. Now, who am I and why should you even listen to me in the first place? My name is Shukro. I am a positive disciplined parent educator and I'm the founder of the Guided Little Muslim and the Guided Little Muslim Academy. I've been working with parents and kids for the past 5 years. At the Guided Little Muslim and the Guided Little Muslim Academy, we focus on equipping parents with the skills they need to raise wholesome children and on helping these kids to, from the age of 5 to 18, develop holistically through learning skills like values, financial literacy, Quran and Hadith reflection, character building activities, and a whole lot more. Because I wouldn't want to bore you or make this course too cumbersome, let's dig in straight and go to the point. Now, first question I'll be asking you is, do you even know why your kids behave the way they do? Why do kids do what they do? You see, understanding why kids act the way they act is very crucial for us in handling any kind of behavior, whether negative or positive. If we do not understand why kids are acting the way they act, we will not be able to respond appropriately because you will not find the solution. It is only what you know why it's happening that you can find the solution to. So the first thing in understanding why children behave they do or in even solving the problem of negative behavior is to first of all change that common notion that we have about negative behavior, that is thinking that negative behavior is as a result of a child being bad or as a result of our own parenting not being good enough. When a child doesn't act the way we want them to act, we should always know that it is driven by a purpose. There's a purpose behind it, whether it's a big outburst or just a small tantrum, or it could be anything your child is doing that is just not sitting well with you. There is always something behind it, behind that action. And there's something your child seeks to achieve with that action they are doing. So when you understand that there's a reason behind this action, you'll be able to know how to address the misbehavior effectively. So what parents term as misbehavior can come in various forms. It could be a 2 year child crying for toys or crying for something when you guys go out in a store or in a mall and they are screaming, shouting, and because they can't get what they want, because you refuse to give them what they want. Or it could be a 4 years who is refusing to, leave a playground or leave a certain place, and they start screaming, kicking, and they start even biting. It could be that. It could even be your 7 year old constantly claiming they've done something, probably their assignment, and in the real sense, they've not done it, which can maybe seem like a lie. It could be that happening over and over, and you're just fed up. It could be your 11 years old slamming the door, back talking, or just because she has them to do their chores or their assignments instead of watching a cartoon or playing video games. It could be anything. What parents term as misbehavior could come in any way. So by recognizing the underlying purpose of this action, it is easier for you to respond properly if you know the root cause. It will even guide your child towards a better behavior, because when you know what is happening, you address it properly, and it will guide your child to behave properly next time. It's not just about making the child feel bad. Handling negative behavior is not about making the child feel bad for what they've done. It's about helping them learn how to do better next time. So now, after we've already know that there is a purpose behind every behavior, I would love us to go into the division of misbehavior or negative behavior. Why do children really do what they do? Now, according to Rodolph, a misbehaving child is seen as a child who is trying to tell us something that they don't feel like they belong or they are significant. So they have this mistaken belief personally. That is why they are doing what they are doing. And they feel that they have, if they do what they do, they can get a means to achieve it. That is why I said misbehavior is always purpose driven. So, according to Rodolph, it is a child feeling like I don't belong until I can achieve what I want to achieve using this means. Now, the means can come either negatively or positively. That is why a lot of things they do, and most times kids use negative approach because they feel that is the easiest way they can actually get our attention. This mistaken belief is divided into four. So the first one is undue attention. The mistaken belief here is that I belong only when I have your attention. For example, your child can be interrupting you when you're talking. Your toddler could be trying to do the thing you've repeatedly told them not to do. Your child can just be, when you're talking, can be trying to make unnecessary noise or side talks when we are talking to a neighbor, you're talking to someone, you're talking to your spouse. They believe they need to have your attention before they can feel that sense of value. So what do? They do things that they are not supposed to do. They could even just, it could be you being on the call and they are just interrupting you, trying to, probably screaming, probably saying something, side talks and all of that. So it could be anything. When your child feels that they're not getting enough attention, that can be a reason for misbehavior. That is one of the hidden roots behind a misbehaving child. The second one is misguided power. A child would believe that I belong only when I am the boss, or I am in control, or at least I don't let others control me. That is, they don't want their parents to boss them around. They don't want anybody to boss them around. For example, your 4 years child can throw in tantrums when you tell them to leave a certain place, all because of they feel that they've lost the control of living as at the time they feel like living. They now want to show you that they too they have power. They can start crying. They can start shouting, they can start kicking or biting or doing something weird. So they just want to prove to you that, okay, for me to feel like I belong to, I have to show you that it's not just your power that counts. So they want to prove that they are not as powerless as you've made them feel. That might not be your intention in the first place, but that is what the child assumes. Even the child might not know that that is what he is doing. There's a faulty and mistaken hidden belief behind every action, which is any of these four. Or it could be a child throwing tantrums because of you ask them to do a chore or follow a rule and they insist they don't want to do it. We experience these things with kids, even grown up teenage kids, because they feel like they are losing their power. They feel they have this mistaken belief that they are losing their power, they want to rebel. So that is what happened. The third one is the revenge. The mistaken belief here is that I don't belong, but at least even if I feel like I don't belong, I can hurt you back. Now, like I said before, the child might not actually understand that this is what he is doing, but it is something that it is a mistaken belief that is already happening by default. So the child doesn't know that he is doing it, but that is actually what he is doing. Definitely, I've experienced some of these things where you punish a child for what he does and he feels he has to actually do this revenge on his siblings, his younger siblings, by actually eating them or maybe breaking their toy, retaliating using those other means. It could be retaliating through avoiding to do his assignment or doing some, just looking for one thing to do to retaliate, to make himself feel better. You can deliberately just say hurtful things to you, or maybe just do something that is not that you feel that will make you feel very hurt. So this is another faulty belief that happen in children that makes them misbehave. And the last one is assumed inadequacy. The faulty belief here is that it is impossible for me to belong. I give up. The children already assume that they are not powerful enough, they are not good enough, they are not adequate enough. So they feel that they don't belong at all and they just give up, even before trying, even before. So this is where we see children not even people, children trying to like avoid the assignments. When you've asked them, have you done your assignment? Probably because they feel they will be spoken to in a shameful way. They can just tell you they've done it, and they've not done it. They'll keep telling you they've done it until you find out they've not been doing the assignment. These are things that happen. That sense of I can't do it, these are things that happen. But there are ways you can actually discover, find out that this is the exact thing that is happening to this child. This is the exact underlying issue. And you can also know the easiest way you can actually address it when it's happening. But we'll get to that as we go on. Once you're able to define that there is a background problem, you would know the best way to come in when you address misbehavior. There are possible triggers to this misbehavior. These things don't just happen. It is some things that trigger those situations. For example, the first one is the child's reaction to stress or perceived danger. When a child is facing difficult situation or stressful situation, or even not a child, we as human beings, when we face stressful situation, our primitive brain takes over. It starts controlling the way we react and the way we behave. That is why when you are threatened, when you are stressed out, you will see that your response on a normal day will be different from the way you would respond when you are stressed out, when you are tired. You can actually just flare out and be like, please leave me alone. Do you understand? Because you are stressed or you perceive danger. That is the same thing that happens with kids. It is a trigger. So when a child is reacting to stress and or threats, their primitive brain takes over and it starts controlling them. And whenever this part of the brain drives action, there's this survival instinct that comes in. There's this survival needs and habits that actually happen. Your child might start crying or refusing to go to school because they feel stressed out about a test that wants to happen in school. Or that is why a child will start crying if they see a teacher that actually scares them. There's a sense of threat there. So you need to understand these triggers too in actually dealing with your child. And anything could be a source of threat or a source of stress. Hunger is a source of stress to a child. Lack of sleep is a source of stress to a child. Lack of rest is a source of stress. Or maybe someone who constantly frightens a child and all in the name of I want to discipline this child. So anything can be a source of stress. So what happens when children are stressed out? They might actually react in three ways. The fight, flight, freeze response. That is always usually the response to treat when someone is stressed out or when someone perceives a danger about to happen. So what happened if a child's reaction or response happens to be the fight? This is when a child yells or start arguing with you. If it should be flight, this is when a child tries to hide or run away from you or avoid the situation. And if it should be freeze, this is when a child stays silent and unresponsive. So you need to understand that all these things are just triggers that can actually lead to that mistaken belief in the first place. What are other triggers we have? The second trigger here is your approach, your own behavior, and your parenting style. Like I always say, parenting is more about you than it's about your child. Our parenting styles differ in terms of our level of limits, that is boundaries that we set, and our level of love that we use in our home. And this affects the styles. This is what affects why the styles varies. For example, in a home where the parents are authoritarians, there is this high level of limits, or let's say boundary, or rules, or control. And there's this low level of love. This rigidity, controlling atmosphere, forcefulness, strict. The parents here are very strict and they feel that this is the best way they can actually get their children to do what is right, which is not true. This style often leads to rebels. When you are too strict, your children will be rebellious. Your child might follow the rule out of fear initially, but as they grow older, they will rebel to that strict control. So authoritarian, that is if your style of parenting can actually be a trigger to why your child is misbehaving, check it. Are you the uninvolved parents? In the uninvolved parents here have very low level of boundaries, low level of love. There's no love, there's no boundaries. Because why? The parents are always unbothered. You would have seen some parents like that. They don't show up, they're always cold, they're always distant. Like they really, really, really are not really present in their children's life. They don't show any form of respect or connection with their children. Sometimes this in this kind of situation is always it can be maybe a party, probably the mom or the father, while the other person is another thing. Sometimes it happens like that, and sometimes it can be both parties, and that is even worse. So when a child feel this lack of respect and connection from from their parent, what happens? The child might act out in school. They need attention. Children need attention, but they can't get it at home. What will they do? They start seeking it elsewhere. They start doing shady things. They start looking for comfort from other places. They start seeking connection from other places. That's why you see children picking behaviors they're not supposed to pick from external external. They need attention. So because of they are not getting it from the right source, they will actually get it from either positively or negatively from any source they feel they can get it from because they already feel neglected. So before you actually say there's a problem on ground, check what have you been using? What is it you are doing that you are not doing right as a parent? What is your approach? What is your own how is your behavior towards your children? Are you the parent who is just bombarding your kids with presents, but you're not your presence? If you're not present, you cannot be able to connect well with your children. You need to be present before you start claiming a child is doing something is already knows too much for their age. You should ask yourself, how present am I as a parent? Now the third one is permissive. Parents are permissive. They have this low level of boundaries and high level of love. They are the kind of parents that are indulgent. They are very lenient, overly involved with their kids life. They don't want anything to like temper with their children's happiness. They always want a happy child. You cannot always get a happy child. It's not possible. Kids here always rebels too because they lack boundaries from home. There's no boundary. There's nothing guiding them. They're always getting what they want. So what can they start doing? For example, a child, if you create any bedtime rules for if you're a permissive parent, a child would actually not answer you. If you tell them anything, they won't answer you because they know eventually you will give in. There's nothing you will even do. They can throw tantrums anyhow. They can start lying. They can start picking naughty behaviors. And at the end of the day, they want everybody to be at their beck and call because they feel everybody must cater for their own desires. So whatever character your child is depicting can actually be as a result of your own approach or behavior or style of parenting in the first place. And the last one is the authoritative parenting, which is high level of boundaries and high level of love. This is the balanced one where the parent is actually responsive, assertive, supportive. You are firm, at the same time you are kind. You actually set boundaries for your kids, but you are doing it in a compassionate way. Not like you are always all over the place, just firm, or you are just overly kind and you are balanced. This is where a child follow rules because they know that there are consequences to actions. So that is what happens there. And the last one here, which we'll be talking about, how do you speak to your child? It could be a trigger too. What is the tone or the language you use in speaking to them? When you constantly tell your kids what to do, it's actually very disempowering. When you always increase your volume, you always nag, you always lecture. The louder your voice or the more you nag or the more you lecture does not determine whether your children would obey you. It will only lead to unnecessary power struggle. So if you frequently feel that when your voice is stern and all of that, you will now say things like you tell your child things like you never listen, you will not respond whenever I talk to you. You can get your response in that situation can be a defensive child because why you are attacking the child, you are threatening the child. So it's possible for the child to you know give you that fight response. The child can be defensive and start saying, when did I not talk to you? Especially if the child is growing, a teenage child. Instead of saying something like, don't leave that toy everywhere, oh, don't litter your toys everywhere, why don't you come like bringing in a very, very, saying it in a better approach, like asking your child what they are supposed to do when they are done with their toys. Everybody deserves respect. So your tone of your how you speak to your children actually determine how they would react, or the kind of way they would behave, or the kind of things that that you end up instilling in them as people. So now my question would be, if you understood that there is actually something behind that way your child is behaving, would you actually treat this behavior differently if you saw it as probably a mistaken belief or a discouraged behavior, or a child lacking the skills to behave better, or the reptilian brain or primitive brain in action, or something that is age appropriate like a toddler throwing a tantrum? Even though it's age appropriate, would you actually treat it differently if you knew it was something that was behind the action, instead of just thinking that the child is bad? Now, as we proceed with the class, I would want you to understand that to effectively undo your child's negative behavior, you would actually be exploring various areas that can help you. But for the purpose of this class, there is these four pillars for addressing misbehavior that we would look into strictly. Cornerstones of these strategies are under the use of consequences. You might have heard of consequences, consequences, consequences. Consequences is a tool for handling a misbehaving child or a child who is out of control. It is a tool that you can use to help your child do better, feel responsible if you use it well. But if you don't use it well, you just see that people are talking about the use of consequence, but there's nothing, it will not work for you if you're not using it well. So for the purpose of this class, we'll be talking about the use of consequences, but how to properly use consequences in an amazing way that it will work for you. What is consequences in the first place? Before we go on, consequences are powerful tools in managing this behavior or any behavior, but not all consequences are created equal. Consequences are not the same. So we have two major types. We have the natural consequence and the logical one. For the natural one, these are the outcomes that happen naturally. For example, a child leaves his bike in the rain. Of course, the bike gets wet. He can't take it out in the evening to play again. That is a natural consequence. Next time he would bring his bike inside because he loves to play with it in the evening, and he knows that there's nothing you can do about that if the bike gets wet. So he knows how to manage his things properly. But a logical consequence now, this is something we intentionally put in place as adults, or we do it with our children to address a behavior so as to cultivate that sense of responsibility in our children, for them to be able to learn. So we can put that spirit of responsibility, spirit of cooperation, and make discipline a learning process instead of a process of shaming and belittling. So consequence is a good tool in discipline if you want discipline to be about learning for them, not just about shaming, about making the child feel bad. It is very, very important for you to use logical consequence if you want your child to learn through the process of correction. Like I said earlier, logical consequence has strong four pillars for it to be what it is. If those pillars are not complete, then even if you've been using it before, it won't be working for you the way it's supposed to work. But if you are using it properly, you would see that it is actually doing that wonders you want it to do. So for the purpose of this mini course, we will focus on this logical consequence alone. This logical consequence allows us to actively shape a child's behavior through well thought out, consistent responses that teach valuable lessons. You don't just think about anything, it will be something you thoroughly thought about, and it will help the child learn lessons. It will help the child learn in the process. We are not just raising anything, we are raising kids who can think. The purpose of discipline should be for a child to be able to think afterwards. So that is the purpose of logical consequence. So to ensure logical consequence are effective, they must align with these three R's and an age criteria. So the first one is that for a logical consequence to be meaningful, it must be related to the situation on ground. It must be respectful, it must be reasonable, and it must be helpful. Now let me go back again. Related. What does it mean for it to be related? The consequence should be directly related to the misbehavior. Your child is doing something wrong. Whatever consequence you are giving him should be related to the situation on ground. For example, if your child draws on the wall in the house, a related consequence would be for them to clean it up. you, of course, you guys can come up with this consequence together, and of course you can even help the child out as is washing it. You can actually show some sense of concern in the process of, or empathy. It should not be that the child will be flogged. Is flogging related to writing on the wall? Is flogging at the end of the day, or stooling down, so will it teach the child any lesson at the end of the day? Or telling the child to write, I will never write on the wall again, will it be related, or will it teach the child any lesson at the end of the day? So you should actually be able to think that whatever I'm saying should be related, one, and should be able to impact this sense of responsibility in my child afterwards. Telling the child to clean the wall, or coming up with an idea of the child cleaning the wall, creates that sense of responsibility. Next time they know that at the end of the day, if they write on the wall, they will get to still do a whole lot. So would they not even avoid it in the first place? So the second one is that it should be respectful. The consequence you are using, if it's not respectful, like I said, respect is not a one-way thing. It's not just for our kids to respect us. It's an all round and all way thing. Just like a child is respecting you as the parent, you should also be reciprocating it. So if your consequence is not respectful, or is not being delivered in a respectful way, then it's not a consequence. It's not something you should use. You should calmly explain. If a child litters the house with toys, you should calmly explain it, the reason why they need to clean up. Not just shout at them. It's not by shouting, you made a mess, now clean all this up now. It's not by that one. If it's not respectful, then it can't have the effect it has. Like I said, there's a purpose behind our discipline approach. If your discipline approach is just for that moment, just to make the child feel bad for that moment, then you're not disciplined. That is not discipline. You're just making the child feel bad. Is the child learning anything at the end of the day? Your discipline should be able to teach your child a sense of responsibility. We are trying to raise unique human beings, and in the process of doing that, we have to do it right from the get-go. So you need to do it in a respectful way. The third one is it reasonable? If the consequence is it should be proportional to what the child has done. Not like the child will do a little thing and you will give the child one kind of heavy duty punishment or something. Or for example, if a child doesn't complete their homework, it could be in the family routine that, okay, a reason for you to watch TV is after you've completed your homework. If a child doesn't complete their homework, they don't get the opportunity to watch TV. That is still fair. It's still teaching the child a sense of responsibility that, okay, if I know I want to watch TV, I need to finish my assignment. So even sometimes you don't need to just go back and forth in telling them or flogging them about anything. Just one word reminder that you won't get access to this privilege. Some things should be privilege. So if you won't get access to this privilege if you don't do a certain thing, then your child will understand the concept of being responsible. Or if a child is late for dinner, you can skip a night routine that they love so much, like for example, story time. A child can be someone who loves to listen to stories, but if they come late, you've been saying, come and eat. You could just remind them that if you don't eat, you don't even need to go back and forth, come and eat. If you don't come to the dinner table now, you would skip you will skip story time before you sleep. If the child skips it today, tomorrow, and next tomorrow, and they see that, oh, this, or maybe not story time, it could be something else, and they see that they keep skipping it, they would learn that they need to be more proactive in doing certain things. And the last one is it helpful? Like I said, the purpose is for the child to learn, and the purpose is for the child to grow from the experience, to start learning from little experience that they gather as children, and start forming an ideology as they grow. Is whatever you are doing, is it relevant? Is it teaching the child anything? By telling a child to stay inside their room and for timeout, what lasting memory is it teaching the child? Whatever you're doing should be able to teach a child time management, should be able to teach child things like trust, should be able to teach children, your child, things like tidiness, like for example, cleaning the wall. You should be able to teach them a sense of, I'm supposed to be responsible for my action. If I whatever I do, there's always a consequence for whatever I do, whether I like it or not. Instead of the punishment. Punishment doesn't teach a child anything. You just teach a child to feel like they are not being loved or they are not good enough. So that is why you want to recheck whatever approach you are using. So by applying these principles, you can address misbehavior in a constructive and effective manner. This approach not only guides the child towards better behavior, but also helps them feel a sense of belonging and a sense of significance. which is a major reason why we should even do these things in the first place. Now, what if you can't come up with any consequence that meets up these four criteria? Or if you just feel like one will be missing at the end of the day, or you just can't come up with, oh, I can't just sit down and be thinking about what will work, what will meet up these four criteria and all of them. My recommendation would be for you not to even use consequences if it does not meet any of these four criteria. Because the purpose of consequences is for us to focus on solutions. So because if you remove any of these pillars, you'll be putting your family in a situation where they fall into the 4 hours of punishment, and we are trying to avoid punishment. And the 4 hours of punishment, what do they lead to? They lead to resentment, they lead to revenge, they lead to rebellious acts, and they lead to children retreating, reduced self-esteem. This positive discipline approach has also things school use. For example, if a teacher responds to a child writing in desks publicly by humiliating them, or a parent brings their child from home to school because they stole, and they start saying it on the assembly ground that this child stole, do you think that thing would have any constructive effect on the child at the end of the day? The child might actually feel this sense of resentment, or even if the child becomes a bit retreats a bit, there will be something, a form of damage that has happened to that child in the process of correcting that child through punishment, through that ashment. So if you are not going to use any of these four approaches, please and please avoid the use of consequences. Don't use it. Don't use it. Leave it. Because at the end of the day, you will be doing your child more harm than good. So the ultimate aim of logical consequence is for redirection. It's not for suffering. It's not for making the child feel like they are bad. Is for us to redirect them and teach them a lesson. A child might find enjoyment in cleaning the wall self if you tell them to clean the wall when they dirty the wall, which aligns the goal of encouraging positive change rather than causing suffering. So the ultimate aim for consequences is redirection. It's not for us to seek revenge. It's not for us to become bullies ourselves. It's not for us to induce suffering. So now what if consequences does not, what if you cannot think about anything? Now, consequences can only, like I said, can only be effective when it meets all these criteria. So, plus, consequences is not your everyday go to tool. In fact, you should rarely use consequences except once in a while when you have to. Because the reason why you are using consequences is because a child is misbehaving. But when you have actually put some things in place, when you've effectively applied other parenting tools that are ready to empower you as a parent and empower your kid, consequences will not even be necessary. You would have already set your kids up for success. They know what to do at the right time. They follow a certain kind of blueprint that is guiding them every day. Of course, they will misbehave because they are human beings. They will miss some steps. They will do some negative things sometimes. But it will not be as much as if you are not following any blueprint. So consequence is not your everyday go-to tool. It's your tool for once in a while. It's your once in a while tool. So our main goal is to raise empowered kids who can think by themselves, who can discern, who can choose right from wrong. Not kids who always want to correct, because there will be a time we won't be there. So not kids we always want to correct. So when we are not there, what happens? So that is the tool we need, we really need. That is why I bring to you good news, my dear sister. Are you that parent whose child's behavior is leaving her feeling overwhelmed or unsure of what she's doing? Or you are that mom who is frustrated by tantrums, back talk, disrespect, or not, even if you are not even feeling all those ones, you just feel you are not doing enough in setting your kids up to thrive or for success. I bring you glad tidings. As we navigate this delicate part of parenthood, I understand the challenges we all face on a daily basis. That is why I am thrilled to extend an exclusive opportunity to you. I am inviting you to enroll in our 1 month subscription package, just a 4 week package. It will be adjusted later, but we just want to do this for the first set. This package is the Muslim Moms Toolkit for raising responsible and empowered kids. You would also get the opportunity to get practical strategies for dealing with challenging behaviors on a breakdown. When I say on a breakdown, you will be able to understand the root causes, the key things to identify those mistaken beliefs, and after you identify the quickest things you can do to actually address it, or without long thinking about what consequences should I do or not. So what do you stand to gain for these 4 weeks? Here you will get opportunity to establish that loving authority in your home, to foster respect and cooperation, You will create conditions for open communication and trust with your children. You'll be able to create that harmonious family atmosphere with constructive communication. You will be able to resolve conflict constructively without power struggles. You will replace the habit that undermine self-esteem with affirming approaches. You will teach your children responsibility for their feelings and action, and you will set limits and enforce discipline with firm yet compassionate guidance. So this 4 weeks program has a whole lot for you as an intentional Muslim mom who wants to get her children to thrive in this fast-paced world that is messed up. You who wants difference in the lives of our children. Now there's a special offer. In this special offer, not only will you get the early bird discount if you enroll now, mamas, but you will also receive a discount to enroll your kids in our Ignited Muslim Kids Academy, which is an online program. I spoke about it before, an online academy for children to engage in enriching tasks and assignments, which would boost their creativity, problem solving skills, critical thinking abilities. Plus, you will gain access to additional resources, book, charts, workbooks, and all of that will make your parenting journey easier. So it's a comprehensive 1 month course that is available for just a discounted price of 10,599. That is why you want to just enroll it now, because the package will change for the next set. So it is a token that is value 150,000 naira. That is the value you are getting from this opportunity. But because we have discounted it for these special moms who are coming in first. We have discounted it from the real price to a discounted price of 10,599. You don't want to miss it. Because why? Our mission is geared towards shaping the future leaders of tomorrow. So we are more into raising a stable, wholesome, confident, stable humans in the best ways we can do it. Now, this offer is for a limited number of moms. In as much as we want to help a whole lot of people, it's just for a limited number of moms who are intentional and ready to take action now, because we want to make sure it's as whatever we are doing is as effective as possible. And for the once we meet our target in terms of the number of moms, we would close the door. So, what are you waiting for? So, you want to join other leading moms now. Catch you on the other end towards becoming an awesome Muslim mama. All right, see you later.